What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for October 9th, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Big show today. I say that a lot, but we have a Phillies playoff game. We have a 5-0 Eagles team. Philadelphia is the king of the sports world right now, so let's get right into it. And good win for the Eagles, 23-14. I'm glad and I'm okay with losing our bet officially. I did think the game would be close, and it was close, don't get me wrong, but I think what happened was, and especially that drive right before halftime, and basically they just dominated and said, we're better than you, and you know it. And sure enough, just went right down the field, took it in, and completely changed the complexity of that game, because if not, you got the Rams getting the ball with the lead. So it was just the Eagles saying, okay, we are the better team. Let's go show it. Not for you wrestling fans out there, not too far off from what MJF does. I'm better than you, and you know it, and that's what the Eagles did. And then from there, the floodgates just opened. Jalen Carter is just a beast. 100% a beast. Like, there's no other way to do it. Hands down, the most complete game the Eagles had this year. But special teams were okay. Nothing special, but Covey didn't really break out, but that's okay. They didn't really need him to. Defensively, I'm very, very pleased with the adjustment that Desai made. That first, it looked a little iffy there when Stafford drove them right down the field, but he made the adjustments on the fly, and that defensive line just imposed its will on the Rams. And considering the receivers that the Rams had, I think the secondary did a decent job, especially being beat up. I still think there is a move coming somewhere along the line from Howie for this. But great overall defensive scheme, and I'm very pleased with the adjustments that Desai made. And that was sort of one of the questions that, minus the Super Bowl, Jonathan Gannon did used to be a pretty good game day making adjustments on defense. Desai really just, I can't say enough good things about him. Offensively, same thing. Very balanced attack. They kind of kept the Rams guessing. It was good to see Jalen kind of turn it loose and be able to run. And that man, he's just a strong dude. That one hit on the one scramble where most quarterbacks would have fallen right over, but you could tell like his strong foundation. A.J. Brown is if Jalen Carter is a beast, A.J. Brown is whatever is bigger than a beast. He just was outstanding, and just it reminds me a lot of Prime T.O. in that 04 season, and just the way he's like runs after the catch and just actually like is able to put hits on defensive backs coming at him. So he is just an outstanding beast. Good to see Goddard get involved. I thought that it would be something that they tried to do. So good to see him have a game. And just a shout out to the crowd that went out there too. It was basically 50-50. It could have been even more in favor of the Eagles, but Jalen Carter even said that at one point the Rams had to make adjustments to their snap counts because the crowd was so loud for the Eagles. And it's just amazing that the Eagles travel that well. And it's kind of depressing for LA that, and again, it's LA, so whatever, but that's able to happen. And it seems like it happens a lot for both them and the Chargers. But hey, kudos to Eagles fans for traveling out there and just being your typical normal self. If I had to pick something to complain about, still not consistent enough where I want to see them in the red zone, and being able to actually take the just score touchdowns. They're settling for field goals a lot, and then the interception was not good. I see what he was doing, but it's kind of one of those things you don't want to go. If he lofted a little higher, it would have been right there for AJ. But again, I feel like right now against the teams you're playing is the time to get that situated out. It does appear like nitpicky, but when you start playing better teams, that's going to come back to haunt you. So now 5-0, one of two teams in the league, the 49ers being the other. More on that in a second.
But Jets next week, and the Jets have never beaten the Eagles. Eventually, it's going to have happen, but hopefully not this week. But we'll get more into that as we get closer to Sunday. But overall, good win for the Birds, 23-14, by far their most complete game. And I think at this point, I wasn't comfortable being a 4-0 team. I also, now that we're 5-0 and seeing the way they played, I'm feeling my fears are a little bit more calm now, especially because they played yesterday. That's like the team you expected them to be and do every time. So good win. Further even making it better, the fact that the Cowboys got crushed. And I was sitting on that all week, and I was going to bring it up, and just between the Phillies and everything, I didn't do it. There was a lot of chatter this week or last week about whether or not we should be rooting for the Cowboys or the 49ers. And there's one camp that says now you got a 2-game lead in the division, which is good. And again, I'll take that because winning the division gets you at least one home game. But when you have Super Bowl aspirations and you know how rocking the link can get, you're not worried about a 3rd seed or a 4th seed. You're worried about a 1 seed. And I think a lot of people are like, I can't root for the Cowboys. And yes, it worked out well. Now we have a 2-game lead in the division, but it would have been nice to have a 1-game lead for the number 1 seed, because ultimately, by the way the NFC is shaping out, it's going to be between us and the 49ers for that 1 seed. And to go in there and have a 1-game lead with a game that we play them in a game later this year would have been nice. And I feel like, and I'm going to come off preachy, but Eagles fans, we need to be better. That whole, I can't root for the Cowboys no matter what, blah, 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 that's a loser mentality. We're not that franchise anymore. The Cowboys are trying to be us. So if it helps the Eagles out in the long run, sure, I'll root for them to win. And I have no shame in my game even admitting that. I would have rather see them beat the 49ers and deal with all the cockroaches coming out of the woodwork saying, we beat the 49ers. And it's like, okay, great, thank you. That helps us out. Because when it comes time to the end of the season, the Cowboys will not be there. Dak Prescott looks terrible. I'm sure at some point they're going to start clamoring more for Trey Lance, and I'm not concerned with the Cowboys. And it would have been, I would have dealt with the cockroaches coming out for a week to talk all their trash if it puts the Eagles in a more beneficial position. So that's my stance on that. Look, I'll take the 2-game lead in the division right now. I'm not going to complain about that, but we got to, let's get out of that. I talked so much last year about old Philly versus new Philly, and that's such an old Philly mindset. Oh, I can't. No, we're America's team now, not the Cowboys. We're America's team. They are trying to be us. So just keep that in mind. But hey, it is fun to see them get destroyed like that, though. I'm not going to lie. All right. Be sure, because with the Cowboys getting destroyed like that, and the Giants playing the way they did, Washington getting destroyed the way they did, Clashing Conferences podcast is going to be a very, very fun time. So be sure to check that out. My buddies over there at the Clashing Conferences podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, as well on YouTube. All right, Phillies. And I'm pumped for this game. I think they won the Ranger-Suarez game, which is huge. Now you have Wheeler going on the mound. And listen, it's kind of like a nothing-to-lose situation for the Phillies, because all they needed to do was go and take one. Now they're playing with house money. And the way Wheeler's a better pitcher on the road, he was dominant the last time out. So, and I think the Braves are going to start getting a little tight. And the fact that they've already mentioned about the layoff and being rusty and things like that, and even though they tried to simulate scrimmages, it's going to be fun. And it's not like the crowd's going to be rocking for the Braves. So I think the Phillies could actually pull this off. I mean, the Rangers went into Baltimore, and that atmosphere was rocking, and they took 2 games there. The Diamondbacks stole the first game with the Dodgers, so they have that. But the Twins beat the Braves, Twins beat the Astros, so it can be done. And I just can see them going in, taking on. Max Fried starting his first playoff game. Like I said, they need to jump on them early. And again, know that you're playing with house money. You're coming home on Wednesday. So let's try to close it out. At this point, I don't see them going back to Atlanta, and I think Atlanta knows that. And I think that's going to make them even more tighter. But I'm looking forward to that game. I'm so glad it's at 6 instead of 8. So I can get some rest and kind of recover from all the excitement of all the games this weekend. But celebrate the Birds win by going to phillygoat.com. They have all kinds of Eagles, Kelly Green stuff, all kinds of fun designs. And really, they've been so focused on the Phillies, they haven't really come out with new Eagles gear yet. But it's just a matter of time. So go get the fly Kelly Green shirt. They have all like the Eagles, and they have hats, and you name it, they have it. Go to phillygoat.com, use the promo code Jim Montgomery, buy a Philly shirt while you're there too. Why not? It's just, like I said, Philly right now is the center of the sports world. So go celebrate by going to phillygoat.com and using that promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. All right. Sixers did lose to the Celtics in preseason. I was watching with my son. He was very pumped now that basketball is back, but no Harden or Embiid, and still no really word on trade. But I do think that behind the scenes, everything I'm seeing is the Clippers are really working to get something done. So we'll see, and I think the sooner that this whole situation gets resolved, the better. But today, it's going to be all about Flyers here for the rest of the time. So all my hockey guys out there, here you go. This one's for you. And today, first, we're going to go back to 1983. And on this day, in 1983, the Flyers opened their season with their third straight win. They would actually win their first 5 before losing with a 7-1 win over the Penguins. Bill Barber and Tim Kerr each scored 2 goals. Barber's first goal gave them a 2-0 lead, and it was the 400th of his career. He was the first Flyer and only Flyer at this point to ever score 400, and at the time he was the 19th person to ever score 400 goals. He still holds the Flyers record for goals with 420. He retired after that year after 13 years in the league and 2 Stanley Cups. He's currently number 92 all-time on the all-time goals list. That year, the Flyers did lose in the first round, but the next year they went on that magical run where Pelle Lindbergh just put them on his back and won the Conn Smythe Trophy. I'm sorry, he did not win the Conn Smythe Trophy. He won the Vezina Trophy that year. But just all around, like, this was like kind of the changing of the guard for the Flyers. But on this day, it was the Flyers beating the Penguins 7-1. Bill Barber scoring his 400th career goal, becoming the first Flyer to ever do that and the 19th all-time in the history of the league. Sticking with the Flyers theme, we're going to go back to our focus on the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame as we get geared up for the induction in November. If you want more information on how you can help the Hall out or past inductees, go to phillyhall.org. If you want information on this year's induction class, ticket information on how to attend the ceremony, or information on their 20 for 20 that they're doing, go to philadelphiasportshalloffame.org. It's 2 separate sites. One's focused primarily on this year. The other is more of the past, the former inductees, how you can volunteer. And again, it's not just money. It's whatever you can do, time, research. If you're good with staging things, they're always looking for different things up there at Spikes. They're working on a couple things for Larry Boa and I forget the other guy they're working on. Oh, Larry Boa and Dick Vermeil. So be sure to check it out. And if you know anything about how to stage and museum type stuff, so give them a holler. Also, check out Back to the Future. We're refocusing on that interview I did with Ken Avalon, the president and one of the co-founders of the Hall of Fame. That's available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Back to the Future with a PH. But today, we are going to celebrate a 2023 inductee into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, and that is Joe Watson of the Flyers. He is the original Flyer. He was drafted in the 67 expansion draft, Played 11 seasons as a defenseman. He was a 2-time All-Star, won the 2-time Stanley Cups, and then just spent the rest of his career in the Flyers organization. 54 years as an assistant coach, a scout, worked in sales, involved with the Flyers alumni. Just really, like, everybody pictures like Bobby Clark as Mr. Flyer, but Joe Watson was the first and really just gave his time and committed his life to the Flyers. He scored a shorthanded goal against the Soviet Red Army team in 1976, which is ironic because he was not a goal scorer. So that was a pretty cool when they would play the Soviet Red team. Played 746 games total as a Flyer. That is 6th all time. He actually was responsible for establishing the Flyers alumni team in 1984. They used to actually play hockey games, and I remember it was the big deal with the game at Citizens Bank Park when Eric Lindros came back and played on the same line with Bobby Clark. They kind of buried their hatchet. And at his retirement, he was first in games played as a defenseman. He was first in game-winning assists. Remember, he wasn't a goal scorer. Second in assists, second in points, third in goals, third in plus-minus, and third in game-winning goals. And remember, this is all just for a defenseman. He was elected into the Flyers Hall of Fame in 1996. He is in the British Columbia Sports Hall of Fame as well as the British Columbia Hockey Hall of Fame. But we know him as the original Flyer, the first guy really to be drafted of the Flyers when they were part of the next 6 expansion teams that they did, and just completely committed his life to the Flyers organization. So shout out to you, Joe Watson, the original Flyer, for just your commitment to the team over the years and for your induction into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. Like I said, go to the websites for more on Joe Watson and the other inductees, as well as the 20 for 20 they're doing. On this day back in 1983, it was the Flyers beating the Penguins 7-1. Bill Barber with 2 goals, and that put him at 401 for his career, becoming the first Flyer to ever go over 400 goals. Big game tonight. You could just break the Braves' backs tonight, and I would love nothing more. And we've talked a lot about how this rivalry has really heated up, and it's taken the place of the Mets, almost, in my opinion, as the most hated rival for the Phils. So to be able to just break their backs and break their spirit and just treat that all 150 people that are going to be in the crowd tonight and just watch them cry, it's going to be great. Big win for the Eagles. Best game of the season so far. I think there's nowhere to go but up from here. Always good to see Dallas lose too, but I would have rather seen them win to help us out in the overall seeding. Remember, we need to have that winning mentality. This is new Philly. Different mindsets. Let's go. We are winners. We're going to do this. I feel like this is a daily affirmation with Stuart Smalley, but you're good enough, you're smart enough, and doggone it, Philly fans, people are starting to like you. But all in good fun. Let's go. Big game tonight. It's going to be a chilly one here in the area. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Monday, and until next time, go Phils.